Hello, hello.
Hey,
How's it going, Alex?
good. Thanks for having me. I'm
Of course,
excited.
welcome to the stream. Yeah,
Yeah,
you are the second guest here in this new series we have going on. I'm just
yeah,
blasting this out to the socials real quick.
yeah,
Yeah, so we are joined today with Alex Appleget. He is one of the functional engineers at Gridiron Survivor. Welcome, Alex.
yeah. Thank you. How's everyone doing?
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just dandy. Look at that. We got a Noah Gamer in the chat. We've got Wally. Yeah, who's the nerd on the left, which is me in this case. This is
Oh,
not an
Walter,
Astro hat
what's up?
today.
Yeah, I thought it was an Astro hat, like the A. Like it looks so cool. I gotta get me one of those.
Dude, I love the Astro hat. And no, this is Alex Albon, who's an F1 driver for Williams Racing. But now that I look at it, could be mistaken for Astro, and B could also be mistaken for my logo. So,
Hey, what's up, Walter?
all right, let me blast this off to the. I just need to post it in every Discord that I'm in because this is what we do here.
Yeah,
This is that's okay. Now a lot of our friends are over at that conference, right?
yeah, yeah.
Now,
I've
yeah,
been
Alex,
watching it online, and I'm just like, oh, I want to be there, but
yeah, I was gonna say you've never heard of that conference before this week.
no, I actually haven't heard about it until I joined Gridiron, and then you guys were like saying, "Oh, that conference," and I'm like, "Why are they referring it to that conference?" And I was like, "Oh, the actual name's that conference." So I like
Yep.
looked into it, and I was like, "That looks so cool."
Yeah, that conference was amazing. That's where had the pleasure to meet Shashi and Chris and a slew of other people. But in Gridiron, I met Shashi and Chris. Alex, who not Alex, Adam, who used to be part of Gridiron as well. I met him there. So really great convention conference. I'm looking forward to going to the one in Austin this coming. I don't know if it's going to be in January exactly, but it's going to be happening earlier next year. There's
Yeah,
the one in Wisconsin as well. So 10 out of
yeah,
10 I would recommend.
yeah. I heard it was going on in January, and I'm like, I have to go because I live in Austin, so there's like no reason not to.
Yeah,
So
no, you don't have a choice. That's for certain.
I'll just come sneak in. Like I'll just,
Exactly. So Alex, you're one of the relatively newer members of the team. How long
yeah,
ago did you join? About a month?
yeah, about a month, almost 2 months ago. Like I
Wow, two
started the
months.
beginning of June. Yeah.
Time flies by.
Dude, it's been a blast. Like I love it so much. I learned so much. It was definitely overwhelming at first coming into a project that is like already in the midst of works and just trying to like dive in and learn everything. That was a lot,
Hmm.
but once I started to get the hang of it, it's just so much fun.
Yeah, that's something that you'll hear again from my brother when he gets on here, who still has a schedule of time, by the way. But it is overwhelming jumping into a project that you're unfamiliar with. Maybe it's definitely new technologies and stuff too. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But actually kind of brings us over to just my first kind of questions for you is just tell us a little bit more about your background, your journey into tech and web development. Like what brought you here, what made you want to do it, and what did you do previously?
Yeah, so to kind of explain a little bit of the backstory is I used to work in sports entertainment, and I would mostly work in baseball, and I would work really hot summers. And what a lot of people don't know is, because I couldn't really talk about it, is I used to be the sports mascot, the professional mascot, and we couldn't like disclose who we were, so we had to be secretive. And it was a lot of fun. Like I took a lot of like professional dance classes. Like I would do stunts and skits, and it was just so much fun, and I loved it. And I would travel everywhere. Like I would go like all across the country for like
Mm,
weeks on end, and then I would come back home. And it started to get to the point where, as you could see, I met someone and we got married. And as we were dating and when we got engaged, we had a serious talk, and we were kind of like, hey, like all my traveling is probably not okay for our relationship. So we started to sit down and have a talk about like what else I loved and what I truly loved, and it landed on
hmm
tech. So I just got into tech. First, I did like the CompTIA, like hardware and software on the computer. And then I decided to take an AWS course, and my instructor was actually a developer, like a programmer, and she did Python, and she recommended Python or JavaScript. And I decided to just take a Udemy course on JavaScript and how to get into web development. And ever since then, I fell in love. And then I started to do React. And then once I did React for like a month or two, that's when I found Gridiron, and I just dove in, and I stay up till like midnight coding. I know it's probably not a good thing, but I love it.
Yeah, no, that's a wild background here. Also, just hey, Braden, what's going on? Braden's another person
Hey.
that I met at that conference in January. So you were a sports mascot. I kind of want to ask you more on that. We'll dive into a little bit deeper because I need to know what you did before that as well. But so you
Yeah.
joined Gridiron about 2 months ago. You said, I can't believe it's been that long. And like I said, you're on the functional engineering team. So as I mentioned last week, and we'll reiterate it, Shashi kind of breaks up the teams or the people that are part of Gridiron into 3 pods. The front end engineers, or I'm sorry, the UX engineers, front end engineers, and back end. And we have some fun names like the Rambackers and the Wizards, right? But those are the teams. So you're on that middle team where you are kind of connecting what I'm building on the UX team with what Chris is building on the back end. You're merging the two essentially.
Yes. So, yeah, as you're saying, it's a lot of dealing with the functionality of everything and taking what Chris does on the back end and booting out the functionality and making it usable for you on the front end. So that way you can just take whatever I create, just throw it on the front end and do the CSS and make it work. And I love it so much. Like, it feels like a lot of collaboration, and I just love dealing with things on a functional level.
Yeah, I am envious of you with your skills in it. And actually, I wanted to know, how did you learn where you're at now? I know you mentioned a couple of courses here and there, but you started with the CompTIA A+, which I'm also familiar with, as is Wally. It's a path that I explored, but before seeing the long way you have to go, starting with tech support and stuff in that. And so did you like Udemy? Did you like this or that? What did you use?
Yeah, so to kind of go back on the CompTIA thing, so I actually failed the first time, and then I barely passed the second time, and I was like, I kind of like building things. And then I remember one of the youth kids from our church had a broken phone screen. I was like, oh, I could fix that. I ripped the screen, and it cost like $300 to fix, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, that was terrifying. Like, I was so stressful and I was sweating. I was like, what else could I do? And
Maybe
then
not dealing with hardware.
yes, I was like, my hands are like too shaky for that. Like, I get so nervous. And then when I fell into programming and started doing that, I did do a Udemy course, but I will say I kind of stopped halfway because the instructor that I had it was a full stack course. So they're like, all right, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and they just sped through JavaScript like really fast, and I was like so lost. And then she was like, okay, let's move on to the back end, and I'm just like, what? And then I pretty much just stopped until about February. Like, I took a break during Christmas, came back, and then on February, my biggest go-to, like, I don't like doing any Udemy courses, no like courses online. Like, I didn't like having to pay for it. So I actually found something. It's called roadmap.sh, if you're familiar with that.
I am.
So I went on there, and then I just looked at the JavaScript roadmap, and I just went down one by one, and I was like, okay, what's this? And then I would search on YouTube. I would ask ChatGPT, like, hey, can you elaborate on it? And then I would just pull up Visual Studio Code and just keep practicing. And I would only move on until I like completely understood it. And I realized that through that, I was able to learn coding like super quick. And then right after I learned JavaScript, I got into React for about like a month or two before I like got on the Gridiron team. And also with React and backend and full stack, I did just roadmap sh.
Yeah, roadmap. Those roadmaps are pretty cool. I've seen a lot of them, and I wish I saw it when I first started, because I think that's where it's best used. Again, I think, and I've said this to people before. The CompTIA, for those of the people that don't know, it's not just for general IT work. It's basically like a ton of computer science related things. You could go more to cybersecurity, networking, and it's a very structured path. The problem, and the certificate wise as well, like, hey, if you want to go this route, you should work on this, put in your 2 years, then get these certifications and keep moving on. That doesn't guarantee you the jobs, but it's very structured compared to especially self-taught development, which is where I come from. We talked with Chris last week, who went to a boot camp because he looked for that structure, and the lack of structure is the biggest thing for me, is that I don't have. So again, that roadmap when I was just starting out would have been really, really clutch. But
Yeah.
it is what it is, right?
Oh yeah, I quickly learned that. So I have ADHD. Like I used to have it really bad, but then roadmap helped me because like I can't just learn from like one person. Like they could be an amazing instructor, but like I have to learn my way. Like I have to take what they say and like teach myself. So that's why roadmap helped me out so much, is I would go to so many different sources to learn it for myself.
Yeah. Actually, that kind of brings me to my next little question, which are, and you don't have to give me three if you don't have them, but what are your top resources or platforms that have been most helpful to your learning? Limited to three, but if you only
Yeah.
have one or two, that's okay.
So one, the roadmap.sh, it has so many different trees for you to pick, like roadmaps for you to learn, like JavaScript, Python, like they have backend, front end, full stack, and it's just so helpful. So that's definitely my number one. Number two is, I would say, YouTube, because I would literally just have YouTube up on my other screen, and I would be like, what's React, or what's a front end framework, or what's JavaScript, like, and I would just use it for searching and just watching videos. And then my third would be Chat GPT, because if I couldn't really find the answer, I would just pull up Chat GPT and then just ask it.
Yeah, I think AI gets. I have a love-hate relationship with AI. I actually only just subscribed to GitHub Copilot last month, and I could see, and I'm very glad I didn't do it sooner. I did start using a couple of AI searches, ChatGPT, Claude, or Perplexity. Perplexity not so much for answering questions, but research is good. And I didn't do it for the longest time because I didn't want to rely on it. But now the way that I typically use it, unless I'm like really stuck on things, is I will give it the prompt like, you're a senior front end web developer specializing in this, and that. Explain to me, like, I'm a junior. Explain to me this topic. And it's really good because it sort of makes it because it's using all the data from the web, it can formulate things in a different way of thinking than you might have, right? So similar to, it's like the opposite of you saying like you have to learn in your specific way. Not everyone knows how they learn best, so seeing the different options to them, I think, can really help people out. And I know for me, like, it's helped because and this goes like in general in life, like your way of thinking is not always the right way, so it helps to see things from another perspective. Of course, that's not applicable to anything and everything, but that's how I like to use AI the most. It's sort of like having it explain something to me that maybe I just don't grasp. But I mean, I even explained to Wally a couple of weeks ago what specifically React was and how it like compares to like
Yeah.
regular JavaScript and stuff. And it's just something that you just need exposure to, but the AI tools can definitely help. Of course, you always have to fact check them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would ask it like so many questions, like, hey, could you go in depth? Or I would hop on YouTube and I wouldn't just watch one video, I would maybe watch like 5 to 10, because everybody has their own perspective, and I would take bits and pieces and be like, okay, I understand it now, and then I would move on. And I will say, when I first started programming, I did not know how, like, my best way to learn, and I feel like after so many trial and errors, it like taught me as a person, like the best way that I can learn and move forward.
Yeah, learning how to learn is a special skill, and it's not something that everyone has. Most people don't have it by default, and that's a problem. It's something that I can definitely allude to with music is learning how to teach yourself something, because just like what development, whether you have a job in it or not, like everyone here in Gridiron, we're looking for our first jobs in the field. You have to learn how to learn by yourself. Music was the same thing in that most of my time I was learning by myself. You would go to orchestra maybe once or twice a week for an hour. You would have your private lesson once a week for an hour. There's a lot more hours in the week than that. And so learning how to learn is something that I think needs to be more focused on. It's hard to say like, oh, it should be a class, right? But yeah, learning, like May says, learning what works for you
Yeah.
when you're most productive. I know you two mentioned that on Twitter today. Barbara Oakley is the goat for learning how to learn. Who's Barbara Oakley?
I don't know. I gotta look into that.
She's an
But
American
yeah,
professor and
I
engineer.
will say
Okay.
my ADHD was a huge hurdle to overcome, and I will say programming has definitely helped me out with my ADHD. Like I would get so distracted while learning, and it just feels like over time and the more I've been programming, like the more I can focus on things.
That's awesome. And so are you settled that, not settled, but are you focused on being a functional programmer in web development specifically, or are you looking for other avenues as well?
Um, I really like web development, and I will say Gridiron made me fall in love with functional engineering, but I know a lot of it ties into front end. So I would love doing like some form of web development or even front end software engineering, or
Hmm.
and I know like I do like doing back end sometimes as well. So like full stack is definitely on my spectrum.
Nice. Yeah. My end goal is to become full stack as well. It's funny that you say that. I so love the front end side of things.
Yeah.
But like I said, you and Chris, you're so good at the functional side of things. Mai is better at the functional sides of things than I am. It's something that I'm learning, and you all make me want to learn it because I see some of the stuff you're doing. I'm like, man, if only I could do that, right?
Yeah, but what you don't see is sometimes me up for like 12 hours just like staring at it like why is it not working?
Well, that was all of us when it comes to testing.
Yeah.
That's for certain.
Dude, I would
Testing is a whole beast.
I would make the test pass and I'd be like, "Yes, like I finally did it after like however many days." And then Shashi would be like, "No, redo it." And I'd be like, "Okay."
Yeah, it's really not easy. Once you get into the mindset of it, I think it's easier. And then as you like, I noticed I had a few weeks away from testing, and then I haven't jumped back into it. I sort of had to like not retrain my mind, but what's the word I'm looking for? Just like reassimilate with that thought process.
Yeah, yeah, because it's definitely a lot of like it's one thing to like finally get it to work, but now you gotta like in a sense teach the computer like how it's supposed to work.
Right. 100%. Yeah, that's a really, really good way of putting it. Um, I'm gonna come up on our next question here for you real quick, if I could find it. What has been the most challenging part of the project for you, and how have you overcome them?
Unit testing, but so to kind of elaborate a little bit on the unit testing is I remember that I had to like build this function and then Shashi was kind of like, all right, now decouple it for testing, and like I was like just in the dark. So just kind of learning how to specifically do unit tests and like understanding what type of tests for which specific component or function that I'm doing.
Mm,
That was definitely challenging, but also another huge challenging thing I would say is first coming onto the project because you're just overwhelmed with files, and I didn't even do Next.js or TypeScript before coming into this project. So I was kind of just reading through it and I'm just like, I am so screwed. Just reading. So it was definitely challenging, but I took like an entire few days just kind of reading through every single file, just kind of understanding what was going on.
Yeah, it's like we mentioned when you first jumped in. It's a lot jumping into any new project, any new code base. But I'll say that uh, you doing it now is going to make it much easier for you in the next one, and then one after that, and the next one. It's massive. So I, again, it's something that I've experienced. So now that you've done it once, when you go to contribute, whether it's on another team or an open source project, whatever it is, I think you're going to feel that much more confident with it.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's one thing when you're on your own, just watching YouTube videos and going through like a roadmap and creating the projects from scratch. And then it's another thing jumping on to a completely different project that's already in the works of being built. And you have to adjust your entire style to what that project is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's going to change. I worked on deals for devs with James Q Quick, and that was different than working with Gridiron Survivor. And then I worked on a cohort with in Danny Thompson's Dallas software developers, and that was a completely different field. First of all, that was much more like a hackathon-ish, even though it was over the course of I think 6 weeks. It was so much more intense, and so all three of those experiences with me had me bouncing around different code bases with different people with different rules and structures, and so it gets better. It gets way better than your first time jumping in, and I know Wally feels your pain on that too. So we've talked about Gridiron Survivor, and now it's for the question that I love asking. In your own words, what is Gridiron Survivor, the project, not the people that are part of it? What are we building?
Yeah, so the project, to kind of break it up, is a software as a service for the NFL survivor pool. And if y'all don't know what that is, what an NFL survival pool is, let's say you get a group of users, kind of like fantasy football, but instead of players, you're using the team specifically, and you're trying to pick the team that wins. So kind of break it down from the beginning. Let's say you get a group of friends together and you want to compete for like a prize pool money that you want to all contribute towards. And what it is for the NFL survival pool is, as a user, you can pay for entries, and what those entries are, in a sense, are your lives. So let's say you pay for 3 entries. So those are 3 lives. And each week you have to basically pick the sports teams, whether it be like the Browns. I have to say the Browns just because I'm from Ohio. I know they suck, but I'll still root for them. And you just kind of go through, pick your teams. If your team wins, you get to move on to the next week. If your team loses, you lose a life. So let's say you pick 3 teams, one of them loses, now you're down to 2 lives, and you get to move on to the next week. And then if you survive until the very end, then you basically win. And if all your lives run out, then you're out of the survivor pool.
Okay, not bad. I think coming from someone that just had an interview, and this is the reason I'm asking this question, and this is actually coming straight from the mouths of, not that I interviewed Danny Thompson, but this is something that he mentioned in that cohort, was you have to sell what problem you're fixing first. I don't have a direct answer for you on that right now. No one's asking me this question, really. I mean, people have, but I haven't had to think about it since a couple weeks ago. But think about that when you're talking about it at first. Gridiron Survivor is a new app that takes the pain away from managing a football survivor league. Then you can dive into the code base and exactly how it does that. And if they ask you what a survivor league is, that's when you could dive into it. But you didn't fumble, so good job.
I know. I was like mentally preparing. I was like, I got to get this right. And then I even went on the Gridiron Survivor like LinkedIn. I was like reading it and stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, hey, use those resources. That's why I do handle the questions a little bit, so people aren't totally unprepared.
Oh yeah, I definitely gotta talk about like what it solves and like how it takes away like the management.
Yeah. Dale Walker's just saying, when I first heard the name Gridiron Survivor, I immediately imagined them dropping a couple of NFL teams onto a deserted island and making them
That
compete against each other.
would be
I mean, I
cool.
could see that. I could see that. Maybe Gridiron Survivor. I also think of a jail. So yeah, no, yeah, Gridiron Survivor is obviously it's more than the app, and like I said to Shashi, we have a branding issue because that's the name of the app, and it's the name of the group of people we do. So,
Yeah, we
uh,
definitely got to come up with separate names like Gridiron Survivor is the app, and then we are like the Gridiron developers or something.
yeah, exactly. But it's it's a good experience. We're learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. Um, I'm excited for us to keep going as we progress and try to get our beta out there sooner rather than later. Of course, this is a tough week with half the team, I think, at
Mhm.
that conference, just about
Yeah,
one
yeah,
third of
yeah.
the team. So, um, now with your ADHD and I'm sorry, ADD or ADHD,
Both probably.
both. So, how do you manage your workflow and everything?
So yeah, obviously when I'm working, I try my best to get rid of all distractions. Like I never have the TV on, I never have music playing. I just have complete silence so that way I can just focus on what I need to do. And obviously with ADHD, like you can't focus for very long times, so I'll keep mentally preparing myself like, okay, like try to at least finish this. And honestly, like ever since I've coded, like I've noticed that like I hyper focus on coding, and like it's pretty surreal to me now that like I can just hyper focus and I just get rid of all distractions, like close down all tabs and make sure that I can't get distracted.
Yeah, I think it's really good that you're able to do that. I certainly still struggle with it, and I don't have diagnosed ADD or ADHD. Who knows? My therapist and psychologist certainly don't think I do, but sometimes I swear I'm like, I don't know. Um,
I'm
but
not going to diagnose just so I can tell people, no, I don't have it.
exactly.
They're like, what?
So keeping track of your tasks, obviously we have the issues and the project board that we're using in GitHub. Do
Mhm.
you use anything outside of that?
Nope.
No, that's okay. That's all
No,
right. You don't have to.
that's, I think, yeah, that's, it's kind of where my ADHD, or if I have it, who knows? It's kind of where that comes into play is if I have more than one location to like have stuff, like I get too distracted and in a sense like kind of overwhelmed. So it's my way to not overwhelm myself is to just kind of have things in like as little place as possible.
Yeah, I think Shashi's his strictness in us not working on too much at once, only having one issue or a ticket in progress at one time is really good for that, because not only are like I'm sure that's how people want you to work in the industry, but it's how you stay focused and can actually go from 0 to 100 on something, or at least 0 to submitting a PR.
Yeah.
100 is a little bit different. As we can see, we have PRs sitting in review when they need
Yeah,
work, and
about
yeah.
like 50% PR. Yeah.
Yeah. So before I get to our next question, I did just want to mention that we are sponsored. Gridiron Survivor is sponsored by 4 lovely companies. We have Appright Pastel, Front End Mentor, and Gate Kraken, which I
Big
know
crack.
is one of
Yes.
your favorites, Alex.
Yes.
And this sort of brings me up to my next question: is what tools do you use for collaboration with the team?
So yeah, definitely get cracking. I love how visual it is because I'm definitely a visual person. So when I get up and start to work on Gridiron, I pull up the Get Kraken, and it's really nice to see the timeline and see like how far behind my code is or like what everyone else has done. And then I can also physically see like the develop main branch that we have. Like if it got updated, I can quickly just pull in the changes. So I love to use that for collaboration and making sure my code base is up to date. And then I guess another tool, if it's considered a tool, kind of like Discord, kind of like the team chat thing, so we can like ask each other questions and help each other out. So really just love using those two.
Yeah, I think I mean, Git Kraken itself has definitely been nice, and I really enjoy Shashi not shying us away from using GUIs.
Hmm.
I think, when I first started, actually, GitHub's desktop GUI just released, and this was 5-6 years ago, I think. So I think it just released back then. But I kind of was using it, and then I felt like, oh no, this is spelling trouble for me because I'm getting used to it. I'm not learning Git. So now I actually do know Git a little bit on the CLI, but using, like you said, Git cracking, it's really nice because of the visual, which is a GUI, right? It's a graphical user interface for all those things. It makes stashing code a lot easier. And the Discord, I'm glad you like the Discord. That's something that I'm glad Shashi gave me the admin privileges to build out, because I think the real-time collaboration when we need it, because we are fully asynchronous and remote, when we need answers or we need more quicker responses than waiting on a GitHub reply, that's where it comes in clutch.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's also fun too, going like, especially on Discord, like I'll go through and I'll see like all the code review like threads that are happening, and I'll kind of like go through to like figure out like what people are working on, so I stay like up to date on things. And then yeah, back to the Git Kraken, like I will say like I do know Git and I do know like a lot of the main commands, but I will say like some of the times I would accidentally like input things wrong and it would probably like screw something up, and I would be like, uh-oh, like Sasha, like help, like when I was first starting.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
then when I started to learn Git Kraken, I was like, oh, this is like definitely like way more safer. Now I know how to pull in the code from the main branch. I know how to push my changes. I know how to also like handle merge conflicts just because of Git Kraken.
Yeah, merge conflicts via any sort of interface is much better than the command line.
Yeah.
Being able to actually see, everything. Damn, it's really rough using GitHub's version of it. I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah.
Their graphical version that's built into things is fine, but when you just handle it via the GitHub website on your PR, it's just not very user friendly, right?
No, yeah. When I first had my merge conflicts, I just remember seeing all these colors and I was like, oh crap, like Shashi, come help, please.
Yeah, 100%. So you're still relatively fresh in your journey so far, right?
Yes.
Um, what do you have any words of wisdom or advice for people that are looking to either change careers totally or get into web development?
I say just go for it. You'll definitely be surprised of what you're capable of. Like I will say before I started, like the reason I went into CompTIA, like I was kind
Mhm.
of like tippy-toeing around programming because I was like, oh, I'm not smart enough for programming. Like programming is way too hard. But when I started in February and I kind of just went for it and I just took things one at a time, like I started to pick up on it and I actually have learned it. So I will say like you're definitely smart enough to do anything that you want. Like just go for it. Don't hold yourself back. And another huge piece of advice I always have for people is take things like one at a time, especially when you're super new to it, because you'll definitely get overwhelmed, especially if you're like in a sense ADHD like me and you have like a lot of things thrown at you, you're very easily overwhelmed. So I will say just definitely take things one at a time. Learn something completely before you move on, because it all just stacks on each other in JavaScript.
Yeah, I agree. I think taking it one step at a time is really important. It's really difficult to um what's the word I'm looking for? It can be really difficult to focus on one thing at a time because of the sheer amount of things available to
Yeah.
learn. And knowing exactly where to go. It's just like
Yeah.
there's a lot of resources. Is just the roadmaps are great. It's super super handy for that. Yeah, I'm surprised he only started in February as well. Yeah, it's pretty great. Um, how much he's contributed to it.
And that's why I'm like, I really wish I could just tell everybody that like it's okay if you get overwhelmed, like it happens to us all, because I hear stories of people just giving up and like it definitely like breaks my heart a little bit because I'm like, y'all are definitely capable. Like, I just wish there's someone constantly reminding you, like, the overwhelmness is definitely normal, and just take it like one thing at a time. Like, try to get rid of like all the distractions. Like, kind of like with the Gridiron Survivor, like there's when I first opened it, I was like, oh my god, there's like a million files. Like, what the frick? I was like, this. And then I literally started at the very top, even the gray files that like aren't
Yep.
even on GitHub, and I just went through each and every one, just kind of understanding all of it. And just doing that, you'll learn things a lot faster than you think.
Yeah. Nicky T Online has joined. Hello, Nick. Pleasure seeing you here, my man. Wally raises a good question. And
Yeah.
how many hours per day or hours per week would you say you put in on average?
I hate answering this because I watched your stream the other day about work-life balance and stuff. um, I will say when I first started, I was definitely determined. I don't quite recommend it because burnout can happen, and burnout can definitely set you up for failure. I will say, obviously, like, I will like lay it out there. I'm unemployed right now, so I definitely
Mm,
have a lot of time for this. So I put in on average like anywhere from like 12 to 18 hours a day. Like, I would get up in the
no
morning
way.
and just learn until like 10 o'clock at night or something. And I was definitely tired, and like, I will say, I don't recommend that because if you overdo it, you'll get burned out and you'll probably just stop for like a week or so. And I would literally just, yeah, just do one thing at a time, not go to bed until I like learn something, or I would like be halfway through something and then I would go lay down in bed and just think about it like all night.
hmm Yeah, it's unfortunate you're unemployed. Obviously, no one wants to be unemployed. But I do feel like if I could, man, I would like if I could go back in time, I'd say to my parents, hey, like if you'll cover my bills for like 1 or 2 years and just give me the time to put in the work at this, I'd love you forever because I would have already had a job in the field, I think, you know. So making the most of the fact that you are unemployed, you know, you're making the most of a crappy situation, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. But it's really important not to push yourself too hard. Like your brain needs a rest. And studies show that um that I think what is it, after X amount of hours, the human brain just really like your productivity and focus plummets. And not saying that like you should stop doing what you're doing because if it works for you, it works for you, right? We were just talking about that. But yeah, burnout's too real. And if you do work part time, you know, end up starting to work part time or get a full time job before your job in code, you got to cut that back. I mean, you probably
Yeah.
won't be able to do that, but yeah, that's a lot of time. So what would you do? You would wake up, study and code, and then hang out with your wife at the end of the day?
Yeah, so when I started in February, like kind of when I definitely like deep dive, I was like, okay, let me start with JavaScript. And I was kind of like motivated. And I was like, because we had a vacation set up for April, and I was like, okay, it's going to be my goal to learn JavaScript and React and build projects before we leave for our vacation. So I set a goal and a deadline, and I was like, okay, I have a lot of work to do. And I would just get up in the mornings and I would wait. So I had like a time frame, like I wouldn't really do anything before 9 a.m. so I could like prepare mentally and like get some coffee, and then I would open up my laptop around 9 and I would just learn for like the entire day.
Mm,
And like you were saying about like giving your brain rest. So I always tell myself like your brain's a muscle, and just like working out, like you need to rest yourself so that way your brain can grow. And definitely when I was doing the super long days, I would take periodic breaks and I would go outside for like a walk in the sun for like 30
hmm
minutes just to kind of like reset my brain because it felt like a marathon. So I would code for like a few hours, go for like a 15-minute walk, reset, come back, and then continue learning.
Yeah, yeah. We talked on. I talked on Monday with Nick. God, that was only yesterday. What the long 2 days. You know about the physical exercise, obviously helping life in general, but also your focus and those breaks where you get out and take a walk or whatever it is just so crucial. Yeah, I mean everyone has their own pace and what they can do in a day or a week, right? It's just important to find what works for you. I've been out burnt out way too many times, personally, which is why now I'm like very protective over my time and my schedule.
Yeah.
So for example, like, and I've been experimenting all year. I mean, since that conference I was super motivated after it and put in a ton of time nonstop. I started streaming, I was killing it. I had a lot of life going things going on at that time too. So where there was a distraction, but eventually like my energy and stuff like kind of just tapered off. And at one point, I think when I took on two cohorts at the same time, I kind of was like, oh god, I can't do this, you know. And I came close to burning out, but didn't quite get there. So right now, my current schedule is 5 days a week. I'm doing something with coding, whether it's reading about it, you know, watching a video, working on Gridiron, which is where most of my coding time goes. And I want to blog again, like, or streaming. Like streaming is I consider part of that as well. Anything surrounding it is what I call my coding time. So 5 out of 7 days I do that for at least 3 hours a day. Sundays and Mondays now are my days off. It was
Yeah.
Thursdays, but I don't know, man. Like, I don't know whether it's the two consistent days in a row that work better for me, or just like Mondays being Mondays. you
Yeah.
know.
I will definitely harp on, don't necessarily do what I did, because I come from sports entertainment background, and if people don't quite understand like our work hours, like I was working 80 plus hour weeks, constantly traveling. Like I would like come home a Sunday night and then wake up again at like 4 a.m. on a Monday
Mm,
and go to the airport and travel for like a week and then come back. So I feel like that kind of prepared me for the marathon I did for like 2 months, working like 12 to 18-hour days. Not really working, but learning coding. So I definitely, it was a blessing that like it prepared me for what I like actually love with coding, but I don't recommend it. Like definitely take breaks. Like now that I'm with Gridiron Survivor, I set my time frame from like 9 to 5, and then
good.
once 5 o'clock comes, I force myself to get off, because sometimes I'll get too into it and I'll get too excited that I'm sitting at my laptop and then I look down and it's like 8 o'clock and I was like, oh, I forgot to eat.
Yeah, and that's a common thing I've heard also with people with ADD, ADHDs. You kind of just forget to eat a lot,
Yeah.
especially when you're focused on things.
Not
Um,
just me. Okay.
yep. Oh God, if only I could forget to eat, it'd be great sometimes. So you're still relatively new. You're having fun with Next.js, but are there any other projects? You know, do I have ideas or open source things you want to contribute to, or are there other technologies you want to explore?
Yeah. So some things I was pretty excited about. Let me think. I guess technologies. One is definitely Astro. So I have to thank you so much for that. Astro is so amazing. Like I will say, me being a newbie and kind of like on my own, like I pulled up my portfolio site and I was like, this is god awful. Like this stinks. And you guys were like, you got like, I made my first blog and you guys were like, you have to definitely upload that on your portfolio and make like a route. And I was like, I don't have any of that. So I fell in love with Astro because it has like themes and portfolios that you could just like download the code and edit it. So it was a lot of fun working with that. So I definitely want to deep dive into Astro. Some other technologies, I guess one thing that I'm excited about that I was kind of talking to you about before the live stream was the AppWrite messaging, which I believe we might be using that for Gridiron Survivor for
Yeah,
like push notifications and like emails that admins can send to their users during the Survivor pool. And I'm kind of excited about getting into that because in one of my projects, I use Socket.io, which is like a
hmm
live chat server, and like I loved it. So
nice. Yeah, as long as that as the AppWrite integration works how I think we're imagining it does, and it does what we want, I see why not, since we're already using it for auth and databases, right?
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and Astro, I mean, some people call me like an Astro shill, and no flame against React or Next.js. Next.js I think has done wonders for React. It's certainly not, in my opinion, the most beginner friendly thing. React is okay. It's still confusing though. Like JavaScript in
Yeah,
general is confusing, and then you get to React. At least I got to React. I was like, what the, like what am I looking at? But I'm a firm believer that actually everyone should start with Astro as a framework, because it feels so, the developer experience is just out of this world.
yeah. I definitely, if you've
I'm gonna
sorry,
shamelessly plug my blog here.
I had a cough. So if you're a developer right now and you're kind of only used to creating your own projects and like building things small, and you want that like feeling of what it would be like working on a project that's already started, check out Astro, because Astro, like in a sense, has their own files and code, and they have like plugins to where you just do npm like install the certain like theme that they have, and it pulls up like all their files. So in a sense, it's kind of like pulling up an already existed project, and you go in and like physically like recode things and change things. So it's definitely
Yeah.
a huge like plus.
Yeah, I think it depends. I had a bit of a conversation with Shashi and Mike in the LGT Discord that where Gridiron Survivors hosted,
Mhm.
or based, I guess, and talking about should developers use a template for their portfolio versus building their own out. And you know, you're gonna get the world famous answer in the developer world, which is it depends. Um, but I think it depends on your goal, where you are in your career, and what kind of time you have to put towards it, right? I'll be honest in that I've definitely put in more time on my portfolio than I should have, but I'm very proud of my current portfolio,
Yeah.
and I have, this is iteration number 5, and I have 2 through 5 right now. I the first one I didn't bother to hold on to, um, but I think for someone like you, you are more functional. I'm not just going to say that you don't have an eye for design, because frankly, I'm not sure if you do. But you wrote the blog, which is great. I looked at it on mobile. I was like, this is not mobile friendly, and I was like, you need to get this on something more um more modern, right? There's nothing wrong with your old site, but like, let's represent who you are in a better way, and that's what a good web presence is, I think. So Astro is really good for that. You can find Next.js templates, React templates, Svelte, Vue, whatever you want to use, but I'm a sucker for Astro. What's really cool with Astro as well is, what you can look more to is, they use island architecture, which lets you throw in whatever other language you want at a time. So like, by default, it's using the Astro file type and everything. But if you want to use React for interactivity, go for it. And then just that bit, let's say you have like you're writing a blog and you have a thumbs up emoji on it, like a like button. You can just make that Astro. You can use Next. You could use Felt. Like, you could use all of them if you want to. It's pretty wild.
Dang, you should be sponsored by them. That's cool.
If only. If only. Yeah, 5 more minutes before this turns into an Astro stream. I've talked
He
about it a
just
lot.
goes on like a lecture about it, and I'm just sitting
Dude,
here like, yeah.
I need to give a talk on Astro, but not that
Write a
others haven't done
write
it.
a
But
blog about it. Like, definitely.
oh, I already did.
Oh,
It's right there. How about
oh, dude, I'm gonna definitely check that out. But yeah,
that?
so about the whole like, should you do Astro or should you create a project? It's definitely kind of like what field you more so want to get in, like, and what I mean by that, like, if you want to freelance, like, you may have like better experience creating projects from scratch, or if you're going to like a startup where they want to create it, you definitely have like good experience like creating things from scratch. Or like, let's say you're going into like a big corporation, like Astro definitely can help with that, because like big corporations like obviously already have things created, and you just kind of get thrown into it to like try to read and learn it. And Shashi even told me one time, he was like, for really really big code bases, especially like by Microsoft, sometimes it takes people like 2 to 4 months just to get used to that code base, and
Yeah.
maybe even longer depending on how large it is. So I say just like kind of dabble in like everything, like create projects, work on already created projects, kind of depending on like what route you want to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's the most important thing is like just keep building. Don't get stuck in tutorial hell, right? And just keep going. So we are past our 45 minutes, but I have just a couple more or one more question for you, Alex. And
Yeah.
is there anything else you'd like to share about yourself or your journey? What didn't you get at today,
Um.
if anything?
Yeah. Let me. I feel
Because we
like
could
I.
just keep shooting the shit. I mean, like it's easy, very easy for me to keep talking to people, but I know we
Yeah.
both have other coding to do.
Oh, I guess I would like to talk about definitely like I want to thank Gridiron Survivor so much for letting me come onto the project, and especially Shashi. Like what Shashi's doing is just amazing. Like he's
Hmm.
bridging the gap between boot camp and self-taught and like actual careers. So just the sheer amount of help that you guys been and Shashi, like I am just so truly thankful because I have learned a lot since I came on for these like 2 months, and I wouldn't have gotten this experience if I was on my own.
Shashi is truly one of the best, and man, I can't wait for you to meet him. I want everyone on the team to meet him. He's just such a great person. Like you said, he's taken the time out of his day and life to do this. He could have spun this up for his friend in a couple
Yeah,
months, but meanwhile, he's leading and mentoring what 10 of us junior developers into the field, getting our first job, doing the code reviews. It's just been stupendous. And yeah, as a team, I think we most of us gel well together. We work well together and everything. But definitely appreciate you saying those kind words. It's
yeah.
we're all here to help each other out.
No, yeah, I definitely like you guys are a lot of help and like so friendly. Like when I first started on, like I was obviously overwhelmed and scared, but you guys were just like so helpful and like answering my questions that allowed me to quickly pick up on things. And kind of just looking back on since I started Gridiron, like I've just learned so much. And I know that like especially Walter, like I know you just started out too. Like if you're feeling overwhelmed, like trust me, it definitely gets better and you'll get to the point where you'll start to understand the project and everything becomes like a little bit easier with understanding.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So while he's asking a good question, where can we find you now that you're back on social media? I'll throw up the banner there again. He's changed his handle, and you screwed me up because it's on the flyer, but that's okay. Did you also change your avatar?
I'm not sure. I feel like I just kind of use the same one, but I
Nope,
definitely
I
changed
got
my
it.
Twitter handle because I'm trying to keep it like common throughout like all the social media. And I will say, yeah, when you guys got me to get Twitter, I was a little hesitant about it because I don't know how I felt about social media, but here we are.
Yeah, I think for our space, I mean, first of all, in my opinion, LinkedIn is a necessary evil. And I've had this conversation. Actually, I had it with Taylor Dessian, who is a tech recruiter, well known in the tech realm, and he even agreed. As much as he pushes it, because it's not, it's a necessity. Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, is certainly what you make of it. Um, you're gonna have to curate your feed. I mean, check out who I'm following, Shashi, and all that stuff. Yeah, like Daywalker is saying, I think Twitter is what you make of it. There's a lot of terrible stuff on there, but it's easy to avoid once you curate your feed. 100%.
Yeah.
Like, follow the right people, block the stuff you don't want to see. It's the algorithm is the algorithm, so it does what algorithms do, and I'm glad you're there now because building a public is huge. Just getting your name out there, um,
Yeah, that's
and
actually really good advice. Because when I first started Twitter, I was like, who are these people? And like, why are they like saying this? Like, what? Like, it's like so random on my feed. So I definitely have to like go through and like block and like filter.
yeah, like again, Daywalker saying you can mute words and phrases, or like, it's election year in the US, and I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that plenty of us want to block. um so yeah, just definitely like curate it. I really like Blue Sky as an alternative, but it didn't get quite the movement that I wanted from it. But so I'm kind of stuck on X for now until maybe everyone moves over. But yeah, you can find him on X, find him on LinkedIn, and it's just be out there. I think actually I had a another question, but since you are relatively new to the community,
Yeah.
I didn't ask it. So, are there any communities or events you would recommend to other junior developers? I don't necessarily know that you're in a place to speak to it, but if you do feel like you are, go for it.
Well, so the Gridiron Survivor community, let's get technical, is one of the only ones I know. The other one that I actually just realized when you said deals for devs, I'm actually in that one too, and I forgot about it. So
Yes,
the
that's
Learn, Build,
James Q
Teach.
Quicks. Yep,
Yeah.
learn, build, teach. Yep, yeah. So deals for devs is just a project of his. There is a side thing over there, but it's an open source project. And if you want to get started in contributing to that, you could reach out to James on I mean Discord if you have him there. But I would rather you reach out to him on Twitter or GitHub. Yeah, James has been so good for the community over the years, and I love the learn, build, teach motto. I think it really resonates with me having an educational background as well. You know,
Yeah. I
um,
will say one thing too, because I made this mistake and when I like first started out, and it definitely put a damper on things. Like as you're saying about Twitter, like be careful like who you surround yourself with. That also applies to other developers, if that makes sense. Like don't just surround yourself with a bunch of random people. Like don't just throw yourself in a Discord filled with like 10,000 developers, because you'll quickly like start to see things that like put a damper on you, because it is a hard time right now and everyone's definitely down in the dumps. So like if you surround yourself with like a bunch of like randomness like that, it can definitely like put a damper on you. So I like to kind of be careful of like who I surround myself with, like surround myself with like positivity and motivation.
yeah, I agree. I think if you find yourself in a smaller, maybe more tight knit community, it can help. I have a few of those, whether it's LGT. Learn, build, teach is pretty large, but you can find yourself a smaller group of people there to discuss with. I'm in Brian Morrison's Full Stack Chat, which is a relatively small group, and I have a Discord for that accountability. It's for that attendees or post previous attendees, so that we can jump in there and keep each other accountable. Obviously, I can't preach it to the attendees, so I gave a link out to the people that are in it, and I was like, hey, spread the good word, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. Like, I think it's nice to. I mean, I'm very much of that in real life too. Like, I'd rather have a smaller group of friends that I'm closer with than have a group of 100 people that I consider friends but don't really know all too well.
Yeah, because you got to remember, like we're all remote, and it you can quickly feel lonely if you're not careful. And definitely surrounding yourself by a bunch of like positive people. Like I will say, when I joined Gridiron and Let's Get Technical, like you guys have helped me out so much, because obviously when I started in February, it like I just felt kind of alone. Like I just shut everything off because I wanted to focus, and I didn't want to worry about the job market. I just wanted to code because I loved it and I want to get into it. And then when I found Gridiron, like I'm so thankful for the community.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad you enjoy it. I think shutting yourself out from the outside world is good to do now and then, but again, like having yourself people that are in the same place, or surrounding yourself with people that want to be better is definitely a good way to go, right?
It's also
Uh
fun to talk about coding with you guys, because my wife is like, "What?"
mhm. Oh
Like
yeah.
I'll go on a tangent and she'd be like, "That's crazy." Like
Yeah, it was
not knowing.
I did the same thing with my ex-wife. I think I would try to talk about things and she would listen, but like, people that just don't quite get it, right? Another tip for Twitter here. Something else I do with Twitter is add people to the list, and then you can go to the list section and pin up to 4 of them so they show up. So you have the for you and your what is it? For you following, and then you can have your lists after that. So that's a
Oh,
really good tip too.
Oh yeah,
Love that.
thank you. That was really good.
Yeah, if you have questions, let me know. I can send you a screen recording of how to do it. But cool, awesome. Well, everyone, go give Alex a follow. He's a very bright guy, and I'm looking forward to you getting a job in the future. And hopefully we all do. Right, the whole goal of Gridiron Survivor, not the app, but the team, is for Josh to help get us those job skills and then move on and get a job. So realistically, the shorter we're in Gridiron Survivor, the better. Of course, we can't always control that, right? Anything else for the people, man?
Yeah, if you're not at that conference right now in Wisconsin, definitely plan for the one in Austin. Did I say Wisconsin before? Yeah, I can't think straight right now. But if you're not at the conference right now, prep for the one in January, I believe, in Austin. Like, I'm definitely going to try to go there. Like, it seems like a lot of fun. And if you're in Austin, like, I'm definitely down to meet up and hang out.
Sweet deal. All right, Alex, hang on for just a second after we end the stream. But thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. And if you caught this at the tail end, you can go ahead and get the recording on X or YouTube. It'll be posted, ryan.furrer. And yeah, thanks again, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.